Good morning, everybody. I'm Mr. Kennedy here. Today, we're going to be learning how to draw a stitch. All right, so let's get started, my friends. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a large circle in the middle of my paper for Stitch's head. A little too big. And for those friends drawing at home, please remember we want to be drawing lightly. Later, we will be erasing some of the lines we make today. And it'll be helpful if our lines are light, and they'll be easier to erase that way. All right, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come over to kind of the side of my circle here, and I'm going to make kind of a weird wiggly line coming down. It's going to come out a little bit, but it's going to come back in, and then it's going to come back out. I'm going to loop it around. It's going to come up just a little bit, make a little loop, and now I'm just going to bring this part straight back up into my head. All right, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make kind of that same line, but on the inside of the shape I just made. So I'm going to start over here, and I want it to be nice and close to my line on the left side. I'm just going to kind of follow that outside edge. I want to give a little bit more space towards the bottom. And then I'm also going to give a lot more space on the right side. So I'm not even going to go all the way over. I'm just going to come straight up from here. And curve it just a little bit. All right. Next, Stitch has this little like tuft of hair right underneath his chin. So let's start with that. So I'm going to start with a little, kind of like a sideways triangle coming out. I'm going to make another one right underneath it, going down. And I'm going to make a third one right underneath it that kind of comes right back up. I'm just going to leave her just like that. Next, let's start thinking about his arms. So I'm going to put one arm coming out right here. So not necessarily right where we kind of started that connected the head to the body, but just a little bit higher up, so like right here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start with kind of an oval shape, a weird oval shape, and it's going to come back into the body, and it's going to come kind of like right here. And again, we are going to be erasing some of this line, so please make it light. All right, now once I have that, I'm going to make another oval, kind of starting from this point. This is going to be his elbow, and back in towards his body. And this one can be a lot bigger. All right. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to this side of my arm that's like right against his body. I'm going to curve it under the oval I just made. I'm going to make another teeny tiny little oval just like that. This is going to be for the start of his finger coming out. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to clean up some of this arm. And when I say that, I mean I'm going to erase some of those lines that are kind of hiding that I don't really need anymore to make this look a little bit more like his arm. So I'm going to erase that little bit of his body. I'm going to erase this a little bit too. And I'm going to erase this part where those ovals are connecting. And what I want is for this part of his arm to come up just a little bit higher. Now it kind of looks like his arm is resting on his side. And what I can do is I'm going to clean up this little part too. So now this oval is no longer connecting. Instead, it kind of looks like his hand just starts to wrap around out of this part of his arm. And what we're going to do right here at the end of this little oval, I'm going to put another little circle for, oops, I put that a little too high. I'm going to put that one a little bit lower. It's going to come right out of this oval we made. And I'm going to put a second one right next to it for like a second finger. and I'm gonna put a little curvy triangle coming out of that for his fingernails. We're only gonna see two little fingers on that side. All right, so now if we come back over to the front side of him, or the other side, the left side, I should say. I just want to change that arc a little bit. Yeah, that's a little better. So for his second arm is going to be coming straight up like that. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of start a little bit below his head, kind of lining up almost with the top hair on his chest here. Come right over here. And this is, again, I'm going to kind of make a large oval shape, but it's going to be larger at the end where his hand is than it is here where it's connecting to his arm. So we can make this one nice and big. And when it comes back on the other side, it's going to kind of come into his head a little bit. So we're not going to see where it goes all the way back into his body. Now at the end of this oval, we're going to make one more circle. Well, maybe a little more of an oval, like a sideways oval. All right, this is going to be for his hand. And notice how it's going into the arm I just made. It's not sitting on top of it, but they're connected. I'm also going to do 4 little circles on this oval shape. I'm going to put one over here for his thumb. And again, notice they're connected to that circle. And then 3 fingers. Stitch only has 4 fingers, including his thumb. Now, if we want, we can go ahead and put some claws on these fingers, these little circles. For the thumb, we're going to curve it away from the body. That's the only claw going to go that direction. The other ones are all going to go back towards his body. Just like that. All right, now for his legs. To do his legs, we're first going to start with 2 kind of oval shapes coming out of each corner of his body. So I'm going to kind of come around like this, and notice it's coming almost towards the middle of his body. And it's not right on the edge, it's coming up a little bit on his side. All right, now back towards the back side of that circle shape I just made, I'm going to make a little hook. It's going to come down, it's going to curve over. And then from here, I'm going to make 3 little toes, 3 little nubs. 1, 2, 3. And this third one, we're just going to curve right back into that, like his knee. This is kind of going to be his knee. If we want, we can put some curvy triangles on there to give him toenails. Now we're going to do the same thing on the side, but our shapes are going to be going in the opposite direction. So again, I'm going to come up a little bit on the side. I'm going to make that kind of curvy circle shape. And again, it's coming in towards his body. It's not right on the edge. It's a little bit higher and goes a little bit more inwards. And then again, not right on the corner where his leg is now touching his body, but a little bit further up. We're going to start with that curve for the back side of his foot. Just going to do a little one, and then we'll start his toes. And again, we're going to give him 3 toes, 3 little loops. Oops, that one's a little too big. One, 2, 3. Just like that. We curve that last one back into kind of his knee. And again, we'll put some little curvy triangles on the end for his toenails. All right, now we're ready to start working on the head. Now, one of the first things I'm going to do is I'm going to make a plus sign in the middle of his head, but I'm not going to make it straight. My lines are going to curve, and they're going to go kind of at an angle. So if you see where his head or the hair underneath his head, I'm gonna kind of make a line that curves up from that point. So again, it's kind of going to the side. Now this other one, I'm gonna bring down, almost like I'm making a letter X. So it's not going straight across, but it's coming down at a bit of an angle. All right, that's gonna, now this top half is gonna be the top half of his head, bottom half, left side, and right side. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come to this side of his head, and I'm gonna go a little bit higher than this line is, so right about here. And this is gonna be the start of his ear. So I'm gonna come out, and Stitch has very large ears. So I wanna make a large curving shape. It's gonna go way above his head. And then I'm gonna curve it and bring it back in. But now once, as I'm bringing it back in towards his head, I want it to come right just below that half line. All right, now on that half line, what we're gonna do is we're gonna make another line that's gonna come up on his ear, and it's gonna follow that shape, and it's gonna go right into the side, just like that. This is gonna be kind of like the tougher part of his ear. We're gonna make another one that's right here. It's gonna come out of that line we just drew, oops, and go right into the side of our ear. So it's kind of making two little triangle shapes at the bottom. And then at the top of Stitch's ear, on this one, he has a little cut. So we're gonna follow that curve in, but we're gonna bring it in, and then we're gonna straight line out back towards the rest of his ear. Then we can erase that little part we don't need. That's gonna be his first ear. Now for the second one, again, we're gonna start just a little bit above that halfway line. This one's gonna come up, but it's not gonna come up as high. It's starting lower, so it's gonna end lower. We're gonna curve it up. I'm gonna loop it around, maybe a little bit larger than that. And I'm gonna bring it back in towards his head, but again, it's gonna go below that halfway mark, just a little bit. Now, on this ear, the cut is a little bit lower. So we're gonna come down towards the bottom half of his ear. We're gonna follow that curve, and again, straight line back towards the outside of his ear. Next, we're gonna go a little bit below the half line now, not touching the bottom of his ear, just a little bit above it. And we're gonna make another line that kind of curves in and into our ear. And again, this is kind of the tougher part on his ear. All right, now we're ready to start his face. So one of the first things I like to do is I like to start with his nose. Stitch has a very large nose in the middle of his face. So we're gonna start, we're only gonna have a little bit on this side. It's very circular shape, so we're gonna start with a circle, but then we're gonna turn it, make the ends kind of pointy. So we're gonna start kind of a little bit to the side here, and we're gonna go way over on this side. We're gonna bring it under. So it's a circle, but with pointy ends, almost like a big football shape. And then there's these two little, almost like letter R's that lay down on the bottom of his nose. These are gonna separate his nostrils. So we're just gonna shade that little part in black afterwards. He also has these two little like wrinkles right above his nose. So we're gonna put one big one, and then above it, one little one. Next, for his eyes. Now his eyes are very ovalish. They're not perfect circles. So we're gonna start a little bit over from his nose. It's gonna go a little bit higher than his nose, and it's gonna end the bottom of his eye, and we can bring it right close to the side, but not touching. And we're gonna bring it down towards, kind of lining up with the bottom of his nose. And then we're gonna put a little light catcher looking towards the top. Next, let's do kind of the same shape, but on the other side. So again, we want to go a little bit higher than the nose. And we're not doing it right next to the nose. We want to give it a little bit of space. This one, we're going to bring right next to the side of his face. And again, we're going to bring it low, so it almost lines up with the bottom of his nose. This one's a little bit more of an oval shape because the way his head is turning. And again, we'll put a little light catcher towards the top. All right, now this is the start of his eyes. Stitch has these big like rings around them. So we're gonna come up right on the side of his head here, way above the ear, and we're gonna make another shape. Now this is gonna kind of go in between the eye and the nose. And right underneath it, once it gets past that, it's gonna wrap right around the bottom of the eye and into the side of his face. And right above us, now this is gonna be the side of his head, but right above it, we're gonna make almost like he has a little eyebrow. We're gonna put a little curve line right there. All right, now let's do kind of the same ring on the other side. So again, we're gonna come pretty high up above the eye, round it around, bring it around in between the eye and the nose, and then loop around the eye to finish. And again, this is gonna be the side of his head. And now over here, right above kind of this corner where this loop is coming into the side of our head, we're gonna make a little line, again, kind of like we're giving him an eyebrow. It's gonna come over. But from here, we're gonna do a little bit more. We're going to make a teeny tiny little triangle on the top of his head, but notice it's curving. It's gonna be for like a little piece of hair that's sticking up. We're gonna bring it over just towards the middle line here. Gonna bring it down, and I'm gonna make a little loop. And that's gonna be for a little tuft of hair that sits kind of on the top of his head. All right, we're almost there. Now we just really need to do his mouth. So I'm gonna come right over here, right underneath this eye. I'm gonna make a little sideways line, like a little N, kind of. Now I'm gonna bring it down. I'm gonna kind of go right underneath this eye. And now this line, I'm gonna bring all the way to the edge of his head. Just like that. This bottom one, I'm gonna bring it down. Now, I don't wanna go all the way to the bottom of his head. Let's just darken that line so we can see it. I'm gonna bring it down, and now right about in the middle of his eye is where we're gonna end it. It's not gonna go all the way to the side of his head. Now Stitch has two kind of, an obtuse angled triangle for teeth. So we're gonna make one, and we're gonna do a second one on the other side. Notice these ones are pretty large. Now we're gonna do four tiny ones on the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that is our basic stitch. Now we are ready to start tracing and coloring. All right, my friends, and that is how we draw Stitch. I will leave this here if you want to match the same colors at home, but you do not have to. I hope you guys had fun today. I hope you're staying safe. You keep drawing, and I'll see you next time.